All right, let's break down those comments right now with Afif Safieh, a former Palestinian diplomat as well as the former ambassador to Russia, now joining us live on RT International all the way from London. Mr. Safieh, it's a pleasure to have you on the programme. A very warm welcome to you today.
Thank you very much, sir.
It's a pleasure to have you with us. The Israeli finance minister, you heard him just there, literally hiding nothing anymore. Gaza is a, quote, real estate bonanza, and Israel just wants to make sure it gets its piece of the pie. I've got to say, on a personal level, I was shocked by him just coming out and saying this so blatantly. Your comments on what we heard from Mr. Smotrich, please.
Well, what can I say except that Mr. Smotrich is really a vulgar politician, a political thug, and his statements are always obscene. They are repulsive, repugnant, and Netanyahu uses him and his colleague Ben-Gvir as his instruments for implementing his policy. Not only are we witnessing day after day for over 23 months now, a genocide in Gaza being conducted in front of the world, impotently witnessing daily atrocities.
Yeah.
But Smotrich is also committing a politicide in the West Bank, meaning the strangulation of the political structure of the Palestinian Authority, by strangulating it financially, by not transferring the taxes the Israelis perceive on our behalf according to the Oslo agreements, and which are indispensable for the economic circuit in Palestinian society.
Yeah.
And he is guilty of politicide in the West Bank and genocide in Gaza. And it's unfortunate that the international community is witnessing impotently what is taking place on a daily basis. And I believe one day everybody will be asking, how did we allow all this to take place?
Yeah, indeed. I think it's a great comment from you there, Afif. I mean, you're absolutely right, frankly. And by the way, it's taken nearly 2 years for the global governing body of the United Nations to finally stand up straight and call a spade, actually finally admitting that there is a genocide being carried out in Gaza. Mr. Safieh, I just want to bring you back to this comment from Smotrich. You know, when it comes to this real estate bonanza, I guess we're going to see Trump Plaza Gaza at some point in the near future. But Smotrich says, and I quote him, he says, "I've started negotiations with the Americans because I also demand we paid a lot of money for this war, so we need to divide how we make a percentage on the land marketing later in Gaza." He continues, Afif, "We've done the demolition phase, which is always the first phase of urban renewal. Now we need to build. It's much cheaper." I thought they were fighting terrorism. It sounds more like they're fighting for a real estate project.
No, let me tell you, I think Hamas compared to Netanyahu and Smotrich are amateurs in terrorism. The scale of brutality, inhumanity, oppression, destruction that we have witnessed tells us that. Smotrich is an obscene person, a thug, a political thug. And I personally, from the first week of the war in Gaza, in October already of 2023, I said the plan of the Israelis is to demolish entirely the Gaza Strip, making it unlivable so that the population is driven out of Gaza. As you know, Israel always wanted as much of Palestinian geography as possible with as little of Palestinian demography as possible. And today, for example, the military war is almost over, and yet they are continuing demolishing what remains of structures, buildings that are still standing. They are demolishing them so that people don't have places to stay. And I believe the driving of the population has been the aim from the very beginning of that conflagration. And unfortunately, they were allowed to get away with it. You know, often observers and commentators would say this time Israel has shot itself in the foot. But it seems to me that Israel has many more than 2 feet to shoot at. You have said it that just recently, 2 days ago, and an additional respectable institution, the UN Committee for Genocide, said that a genocide is being perpetrated in front of our eyes. This comes months after several NGOs, prestigious, including 2 Israeli NGOs, having said the same thing. And many genocide experts, scholars, many of them are Jewish, are saying that what Israel is committing on a daily basis meets the criteria, the
Yeah.
legal criteria for genocide. This
Yeah.
is what we are witnessing today.
This is, and finally, there are enough people who are standing up straight. I guess they've grown a backbone to finally, call it out for what it is. I mean, I've actually got the list, Mr. Safieh, I've got the list in front of me of these categories that this UN independent commission decided to put down. This is a genocide, this is a genocide, this qualifies as genocide. Do you know that the IDF bombed Gaza's largest fertility clinic, reportedly destroying 4,000 embryos, 1,000 sperm samples, and unfertilized eggs? That does seem to go with the UN genocide definition of the eradication of an ethnic group or people.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. It's incredible. And I have always believed that Israel looks at us, the Palestinians, as undesirables, as an unwanted demography. We are seen as a demographic threat. Hence the attacks against, as you said, the fertility center, destroying sperms so that the Palestinians cannot procreate, etc., etc.
Yeah.
So, but I believe that there is a tremendous change in international public opinion, and this Israel is unaware today of what will be the repercussions of this monumental change in public opinion, including among the American society. A Jewish community in America has changed a lot. It's no more unconditionally supportive of the Israeli government, and I believe that those who have demonstrated regularly for 23 months in Washington and in New York, saying not in our name, are to be respected and applauded and supported. And I believe that even Trump recently said that within Republican ranks in America, there is an increasing portion of the supporters of the Republican Party that are uncomfortable with Israeli behavior. And I believe that in America, many are becoming aware that in the Israeli-American relationship, it's unfortunately the tail that wags the dog and not the dog that wags the tail. Many in the Middle East today perceive that the American foreign policy in the Middle East is a subcontract in the Israeli strategy, and it's the tail that is wagging the dog and not the dog wagging the tail. And I believe all those elements will be factors of change in a very near future, not in a too distant future.
Well, I mean, listen, let's not forget, Mr. Safieh, a number of years ago, the retired four-star General Wesley Clark said, we're going to invade 7 Islamic countries in 5 years. That was about 25 years ago. But now you look in the past week, Israel's bombed Lebanon, Yemen, Qatar, Syria, and God knows wherever else as well. It does seem, as you say, that Israel is carrying out perhaps the continued foreign policy of its main ally in Washington. Meantime, as you also said, Mr. Safieh, there is a turn in opinion around some parts of the world, particularly in the West. People are waking up. The EU Commissioner Ursula von der Leyen even possibly discussing some kind of sanctions against Israel, although she's been supporting Israel up until this point. What do you make of her offers? Do you think Ursula von der Leyen would in some way try to push back on Netanyahu?
She is under tremendous pressure from European public opinion. Now, I believe personally that Europe has abdicated for too long of the possible role it could play in the Middle East. You know, 1/3 of Israeli economy is in interaction with the European market. And Europe has a lot of possibilities of pressuring Israeli misbehavior out of existence. But unfortunately, up to now, there were certain countries like Germany, because of the historical feeling of guilt, and Hungary today and Czechia, who are disrupting European unanimity and breaking ranks with other European colleagues. But yet, what is encouraging today is that public opinion is by far more advanced than governments in Europe, and at one day, very soon, it will translate into governmental policy. We are waiting. I live in London, as you know, because I don't have a residency in my hometown in Jerusalem. So the UK is expected on Sunday to announce officially the recognition of a Palestinian state. And I believe that would be diplomatically extremely significant, especially that the UK is not the only country that will be extending recognition to Palestine, joined by France, Canada, New Zealand, Australia, Belgium, Luxembourg, and all this is significant.
But these are also countries, Afif, sorry to jump in, but these are also countries that are facing tariffs and sanctions from America. Do you think there's any geopoliticking going on? I mean, look, the UK, London's going to try and recognize a Palestinian state. Maybe they're just doing that to get under Trump's collar, to push back on Trump because, you know, no one's closer than Trump and Netanyahu. Or am I off the mark here?
No, you're not off the mark, but I believe that, you know, I always said Palestine and Israel is always a test between political courage and moral cowardice. And I believe that today, even reluctantly, some European leaders are expected to show some courage after having abdicated for too long. You know, we always wanted to have Europe as a player in the Middle East. And unfortunately, the Israelis wanted them to be relegated only in the status of a payer and not a player. And Kissinger is known to have said some 4 or 5 decades ago, the European intervention in the Middle East equation is unhelpful because it raises Arab expectations, which he wanted to reduce through a variety of blows. Yet, as I told you, I expect that many European countries will show finally, enfin, after too many moments of moral cowardice, some political courage in the coming days and weeks. We look with great expectation to the session to be held in New York at the General Assembly of the United Nations. And I personally believe that American society should do some soul searching. For example, I read 50 years ago the memoirs of Dean Acheson, who was a very prestigious foreign minister, Secretary of State of America just after the Second World War. His memoirs are titled Present at the Creation, and he spoke of the creation of the United Nations. And he has a sentence which is interesting. He says, the UN Charter is a condensed version of American philosophy and American ideology. Unfortunately, the pro-Israeli Inquisition in Washington for the last 40 years have been instigating American administrations to boycott the UN, to cut funding through the UN, to withdraw from certain UN institutions, etc. And I, a Palestinian dreamer, I still dream of a moment when American foreign policy would be at the service of the United Nations, except instead of expecting that the United Nations is at the service of American foreign policy.
Yeah.
Things will change. I don't think history is static. History is by definition dynamic. And I can see certain factors of change. What is important is that we, the Palestinians, keep believing. And I believe that today, yes, we are wounded. Yes, we are suffering. Yet we are unbowed, undefeated, undomesticated.
I think it's a really powerful and moving statement from you, Mr. Safieh. I appreciate that. And listen, I'm sorry to say I'm very, very low on time. I'm going to give you 1 minute for your final statement, please, and forgive me for doing so. But Netanyahu, his future, is he going to finally deal his corruption trials and face the music, or is he going to disappear off into the sunset? What is the future of Netanyahu? And you have 1 minute, sir.
Now, what I would like to say in this one final minute is that in international relations, there is a concept that was underused, a concept by Thomas Schelling from Harvard. And the concept is compellence. Now, deterrence is a legitimate policy for states. Deterrence is how to deter or dissuade a neighbor of undertaking policies that are detrimental and harmful to your interests. But compellence, which is the policy that Netanyahu is pursuing, is how to compel and coerce your neighbors into doing what suits best your own interests. And as you mentioned earlier, Netanyahu has waged war into 7 countries in the last 2 years. And his policy in the Middle East is not self-defense as he pretends it to be. It is compellence. He wants to reorder the architecture of the Middle East in function of what he considers to be his best interest. But I would like to tell him something. We are for peace in the Middle East. We are still in favor of a 2-state solution. And I believe personally that Israeli society will be well inspired to believe that we, the Palestinians, are the key to the regional acceptance of Israel. The way they are treating the Palestinians today, genocide on the one side and politicide on the other, is making them undesirable as partners in a future of the Middle East. And I personally believe they will be better inspired to know that security does not come from territorial aggrandizement, but from regional acceptance. And we are the key for the regional acceptance of Israel.
You know, it's an intriguing conversation we've been having here with Afif Safieh, the former Palestinian diplomat, as well as the former ambassador to Russia. Talk about a guy who really knows his history and geopolitics. Mr. Safieh, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for your time.
It's mutual, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.